Hello, Facebook family. This is Curtis, Elevate, November 16th, 2022. Thanks for bearing with us on the technical difficulties. It's funny because when I was loading up, it asked me one kind of different question that I'm not used to, and evidently I chose the wrong option. So, anyway, 703 Elevate, Facebook Live, Influence 101, Part 2. Influence 101, Part 2. I'm gonna do the housekeeping like usual. Let's make sure I put some comments down. Uh, basically, thanks for joining us today. Most of you know me. I'm Curtis Carr. Got over 30 years of leadership experience. This is what I'm very, very passionate about. My wife and I have this leadership company where we do consulting and coaching, and she has her own business where she's been doing cupcakes for almost 10 years now. She's also a project manager and business analyst. So she's not here today. So it's going to be weird to look over there and not see anybody over there. But her mother has, I think, some training to do in New York. So my wife really has a lot of passion for New York. So she was just looking for an excuse to go to New York. So she's up there with her. I think they're going to see a play tonight and probably buy some stuff to bring back to try to figure out where we're going to put it at because there's no space here. So anyway, very excited to be on today. We're talking about influence, part 2. Influence 101. We're talking about the basics of influence 101. See Aunt Stephanie in, see my parents in. It's good to see y'all in. But basically, we're going to give a shout out to Veterans Day, being born in Fort Hood. Veterans Day was Friday. So I wanted to give a shout out to Veterans Day. Appreciate the service. We see people every day who have served. I work with people that have served. So very appreciative of the service. And I kind of want to jump into it. But before I jump into it, and just in case you didn't hear me, Shar is out of town. She made a trip to go visit her mother. Her mother's doing some training up in New York. And when we went to New York last year, Shar was very, very, very excited to be up there. She really loved it. And she was like, we need to go back. We need to go back. And I'm one of those guys that's like, we just went there. Can we pause? So at the end of the day, she found a way to get up there, especially where you can save some money since the hotel room was already paid for. She just had to get a ticket and fly up there. So she's going to be out for a couple of days. So just me and Kai at the house. So anyway, Influence 101, Part 2 is what we're talking about. So I wanted to also say the jokes real quick. Have a couple jokes. We'll see how they fare. We've got a couple jokes. The first joke is, what is a snack's political belief? We just came out of an election. Very significant. Hey, Ann and Karen are here. Good to see y'all. Or I always say good to see y'all. I can't see you, but you know what I mean. What is a snack's political belief? This is what I would say, Shar, but there's no Shar. So a snack's political belief is preservative. I don't know. I don't even like that now. Now that I said it, I don't even like it. Number 2, where do snacks stand trial? Where do snacks stand trial? In food courts. I thought that was pretty good. The third one was supposed to be the kicker. That's supposed to be the one that just makes everybody fall out their chair. What is a website's favorite snack? What is a website's favorite snack? Cookies. You get it? I like that. A website's favorite snack is cookies. All right. So those are the jokes today. I don't know. I'm about this close to just crunching them up and throwing them away. But I do like that last one. What is a website's favorite snack? So today we get to go into Influence 101. And I will say this. I feel so fortunate. Because I get to do for a living what I'm passionate about. And that wasn't always the case. There was times where I would drive to this one job. I was a meter reader. I was in my 20s. And it was paying a little bit more than the other jobs. I took it because I had a family and I was trying to make things happen. And I remember sometimes if a slow song came on, I'll just be driving and crying on my way to work, just crying. Little tears come down. I was just so sad because I had to go to this meter reading job because I don't like being outside because of the heat and the elements. So I'll be driving, and I think Sounds of Blackness had this song, and I'll just be crying. Then I'll wipe my tears, come back into the job, and do my job. So, but I am very, very appreciative that I'm in a position to do what I'm very passionate about. And I didn't even have to start my own company, so, very, very appreciative. And I was just thinking about this today, as we go from problem to problem every day, every day. We're going from challenge to opportunity. We call it opportunity, going from one challenge to another opportunity to another challenge to another opportunity. And I was just thinking about how thankful I am that I'm doing something that I'm very passionate about, because it doesn't have to be that way. So, one of the things we talked about as far as with influence in part one, we talked about influence is just basically the ability to obtain followers, right? And we talked about this great book that John C. Maxwell wrote. And on this book, he talks about, he gives like levels of leaders, right? He gives these 5 levels, and you can really see yourself as you really dive into the leaders. I hope y'all can't, hope that dog is not bothering y'all too much. Bothering me. But basically he says that John Maxwell said, hey, there's the first level is position. So you're given a title and people follow you because they have to, right? Then he said the next level is permission, and people follow you because they want to. And then he said the third level is production, and people follow you because of what you've done for the company. And then it goes on to people development and pinnacle, but I don't want to go that too far down the road here, because I really want to talk about that permission level real quick. So the permission level is to me the hardest level. It's when people follow you because they want to, and the reason it makes it so hard is because you really have to build genuine relationships. If you're struggling trying to build something, or you're struggling trying to get followers or people to support you, a lot of times it's because it's not enough work done in this area. Because at the end of the day, each individual, you have to take them through the steps. So it's not like you can get to this 4th level and then, you don't have to really maximize your organization, or to really create great teams. You can't just ignore the new people coming in. You have to make sure you engage people coming in, right? And you basically have to build that trust where you go up these levels with each person. And that's what makes it challenging, because it really has to be a focus. You're not building an organization, you're building relationships with people. And if you're really good at building relationships with people, then you'll have a great organization. So at the end of the day, I really wanted to talk about a couple things here. And I wanted to go back to permission and talk about some of the downsides of permission before we go on to production. I don't personally think that there's no other way. I believe there's no other way to really be successful unless you create a culture where people and relationships are built. But some people would say there's a downside. So I wanted to go over a couple of those real quick. So before we do that, I want you guys to chime in. Who's out there? We got Aunt Stephanie from Pflugerville. We see my parents in Cedar Park. We see Ann and Karen out there. Looking a little light today. I know Mother Brenda's in New York. Char's gone. Just, I guess, it's cold weather, a little changing. But tell me how you feeling out there real quick. I want to make sure everybody's alive and active before we kind of dive into this, because we only got about 15, 16 minutes now. How's everybody feeling? If you can give me one word and tell me how you're feeling right now. One word. If you can tell me one word to tell me how you're feeling right now. If I had to pick one word, it would be definitely just appreciative. I mean, I've been feeling this way all day. And today wasn't like a extremely stressful day or anything, but I guess it's just one of those things that came over me. Loving the cold weather and Yellowstone. So, oh man, that's a whole nother conversation. So we watched Yellowstone. Ann said feeling encouraged. What about Karen? My dad said great. What about mom? So Karen and my mom are both of y'all encouraged, and Karen and Ann and both of you, my mom and dad, y'all great. So Yellowstone, we watched it. We were kind of disappointed. I guess we were so hyped up, and then we were tired. So Yellowstone's my favorite show. I mean, hands down, my favorite show. I think maybe I hyped it up too much in my head because at the end of it, I was barely staying awake. So I think I was just tired, but it's still my favorite show. Um, but I know after a while, becomes hard creating storylines after storyline, season after season, but it's still my favorite show. So great and encouraged. So what I really want to talk about is some of the downsides to permission. Now, one of them says permission leadership appears too soft to some people. Now, that's a big one, especially when we're dealing with people older than me or people right around my age. I would say my age and older, just because we did things based out of authority more so back in the day. Stephanie said excited. Uh, so permission to some people would seem soft, and my thing about that is that yeah, it can appear that way, but if you're going to build anything that's substantial, you got to build relationships. So, like we said, that first level is position. So, if you just try to build stuff off authority, then it'll get so deep, but it won't be as deep, and it'd be probably hard to accomplish the vision that you have for your organization or your ministry or whatever the case may be. For me, it's the organization. So I know that I have to build relationships. And actually, it is fun to me. I mean, I'm tired at the end of the day, but it's fun just to learn and get to know people. And I mean, man, I can tell story after story about where people are and their experience. And it's just amazing. And I couldn't imagine not going about it this way. I couldn't imagine walking around thinking because I have a title that people are supposed to do what I say. I couldn't even imagine that living life like that. The real fun in my job is to get to know the people and to see what they do when the challenges come and to see how they overcome things. So very, 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 very. Carrie said tired, but good night's sleep will cure that. Gotcha, gotcha. So I would say this, that even though permission can be a little soft or appear to be a little soft, um, it's a must, right? And it's the hardest level, and it's a must if you want to build anything substantial. I'm going to skip over that because there's a lot of things I can say, and it's going to take me off track. So number two, leading by permission can be frustrating for achievers. That's another negative to some people. Leading by permission can be frustrating for achievers. I think about people like Michael Jordan or people that work at a high level or produce at a high level. A lot of times they struggle in coaching because it takes patience, it takes work and a relationship level to really build that team together. And basically, they're just like, "Hey, be like me. I'm a high performer. You need to think like I do. I did it. I shot 1,000 free throws after practice because I lost a percent of my free throw percentage, or whatever it is they do that's just like over the top. They don't have the patience a lot of times, but um, a lot of times high achievers want to get things done and they want to get them done right now, and it's not going to happen like that. It just won't. I'm a very impatient person, and if I wasn't doing what I enjoy to do, I don't think that I could do this. I really don't, because I'm very impatient. But the fact that I'm enjoying what I do, it helps in that regard. I know that this cannot happen fast. There's decisions that I made 5 months ago that I'm really, eating the fruit of those decisions or experiencing the fruit of those decisions. So I know it takes time. Building relationships take time, and it's a slow work. And if it's it can definitely be a negative, right? Leading, it can be frustrating for high achievers. Number three is permissional leaders can be taken advantage of. So if you're that type of person, people are going to try you. You got to open yourself up. So, there's different types of people. You got the takers, the developers, the acquaintances, and the friends. And the takers are the people that they want to leverage the relationship with you just to make things better for them. They don't want to add anything to what you're trying to do, right? Takers. The developers, they try to leverage the relationship in a positive way to better themselves and you. They might not ever be your friend, but they like, hey, I appreciate what you do. I'm going to contribute in what you're doing, and I'm going to benefit from it too. Then you got the acquaintances who live off the relationship but never do anything with it. They're kind of like what do you call it? The people, the vagrants, the people that are just sitting around in the way sometimes, but they're there. And then you have those that become friends, those deep relationships you form because you guys are unified, trying to accomplish something. So personal permissional leaderships can be taken advantage of, but so can anybody else, right? So it's a negative, but I don't think it's that great of a negative. I want it all, and I want it delivered. So that makes me want to say something else. I have to tell you later, Ann. I have to call you and tell you this. It made me think of something real quick. But the fourth thing is permissional leadership requires openness to be effective. So that's a kicker for a lot of people, especially the people that have issues with pride. Permissional leadership requires openness to be effective. To me, the more transparent you are within reason, I would say. I mean, some things you don't need to say just because it's not appropriate, but that openness, the more transparent you are, the deeper those relationships can really be. Because some people want to say it, but they won't say it because they don't know if it's safe. But when you open up, then they say, "Oh man, it's safe to say this." So it requires openness, a permissional leadership style. Number 5 is permissional leadership is difficult for people who are not naturally likable. So if you're not naturally likable, a lot of times this style is rough for you. I don't know if I'm naturally likable or not, y'all. I just know that I'm very passionate about organizations being led by the right people. And that goes for nonprofit organizations and for-profit organizations. And I've been involved heavily in both. So I recognize there's a difference. To me, the only difference is you probably got to me, in nonprofit organizations, especially like in, churches, you need 5 people to do one thing. That's the biggest difference to me, but it's the still same principles. It's no different to me. The stuff I did to be effective in nonprofit organizations is the same things I do to be effective in for-profit organizations. It just takes more people to accomplish things that it shouldn't just because it's nonprofit. You don't have that paycheck or that salary to get them to move. So you have to use relationship and your influence with them to get them to be a part of it. And most of the time, if they buy into you, they'll get it done. It just takes longer. So Jock said, I'm not. I want it. Say what you're not at, Jock. It's good to see you on, Jock. I'm not sure. And like I said, Ann always makes me feel good. She says, you're a very likable person. I tell that to the people that don't like me. Thank you. I'm going to say Ann said that I am very likable. Then the 6th thing is permission leadership forces you to deal with the whole person. And this is funny because Henry Ford said this. He says, why is it that I always get the whole person when what I really want is a pair of hands? Let's face it, relationships are messy. And unfortunately, we're not going to get just the body part we're looking for. If we need somebody just to do some work, you're not going to just get the parts of the body that can do the work, right? And that's funny. Jock said he's not naturally likable. I think Jock is very likable. Everybody I introduce, my grandmother liked you, Jock. Everybody liked Jock. So I don't know anybody that doesn't like Jock. So perspective is funny. But you have to deal with the whole person. And that's a challenge, right? If you are in permissional leadership, it forces you to deal with the whole person. And that's including their dysfunction, their home life, their health issues, their quirks. And I will say this, Shar always tells me stuff. She'll be like, well, that's not really your business when I'm telling her about something I told somebody. And I said, well, everything. I said, well, I did say hell, but I said, well, everything that goes on in their life is my business because their decisions affect me and my decisions affect them. When did we start thinking that it's a line that just cuts straight down and it says business life and personal life? To me, it's all together. It's all together. And I'll preface it by saying, hey, I would do this if I was in your situation. Now I know you're grown, you're gonna do what you want to do, but I'm just saying, That's what I would do. But I don't look at it like it's not my business. It's all my business, right? Because when they call in because of this or that, they affect me. If I wasn't going to give them their check, or if their check was late, they don't care about. They're like, man, what's going on? I tell them something about in my personal life. This is the reason why your check is late and all that. Now my personal life is their business to them, So I just never go by that. And plus, I believe that kind of thinking that it's all together has helped me a lot, because it shows that I care. When you tell somebody, uh, give them some financial advice, or you tell somebody about a personal experience that you had, and how you came out of it, it shows them that you care. If I just kept everything about the job, I don't even know how I would make it as a leader. So, I step my toe in their personal life, and I leave it in there as long as they allow me. And then when I feel like they're getting uncomfortable, then I take that toe and I step back out. I step back out of their life. So today was really talking about the things that, why some people would call permissional leadership, that second step, negative. But if you think about it, it's just the way it is. I mean, you're gonna have to. It's gonna appear soft because you're not having a hammer and trying to make people do things. The second part was saying how it it can be frustrating for achievers. Well, that's just it is. It is frustrating for achievers because you have to build it, and it takes patience, right? That a leader, a permission leader, can be taken advantage of. Yeah, and so can the other leaders be taken advantage of. So you have to there's no other way but to really develop relationships. And then it talks about how you have to be open. I'm telling you, the ones that were effective that I know in getting followers and obtaining followers and developing teams, they were transparent. They were transparent. They would tell you things that you'd be like, whoa, oh, and that's what really drew me to them, is because they kind of tore down that wall, that myth that you have to be superhero to do this or that, So they were very transparent, you know, and a lot of them that were wise, they pulled it out. They pulled out that transparency and got deeper in times where they see that I was drifting away, you know, or times they would see that I needed a little boost. They would show that transparency. Um, the other thing was, permission leadership is difficult for people who are not likable. Man, it is. But if you really care about leading people, um, I think that'll adjust. I don't consider myself likable, extremely likable, but I will do what it takes to build a relationship. And since we got Jock on here, Jock was somebody that I was drawn to in a previous relationship. And Jock was a great, or I ain't gonna say like you're dead, Jock. I mean, Jock is a great guy. And you know, I would not steer anybody wrong or put anybody in a bad predicament, especially people that I respect. I got tremendous respect for Jock. So those relationships, being transparent with a guy like Jock, or he's been transparent with me, those relationships are priceless. And to me, that's what makes life life. So the last one, I'm going to repeat just because, is we have to deal with the whole person. And I love this quote. I'll say it one more time. Why is it that I always get the whole person when really all I want is a pair of hands? That's what Henry Ford said. So at the end of the day, I used to feel like that when I was younger, but that's before I grew up a little bit and start seeing things the way I do now. But I used to be like, man, can't they just come to work? Can't they just do their job? But at the end of the day, I know that you have to deal with the whole person. So it's 7:27. Ann said it makes perfect sense. Please chime in if you got anything out of this. Next week, we're going to talk about production. And then we're going to talk about the fourth level. And just kind of, if I was you, kind of see yourself where are you, in those levels, especially if you're still out there making things happen. Do you consider yourself a position leader where you're just stepping into it and people follow you just because of your title, but you haven't, graduated to that permission leader where they're coming to you and you can tell that they like you genuinely, and they're doing things because they want to see you get ahead, because they want to see you get ahead? Or have you moved up to that production leader where, you know, you're producing at a high level and people are gravitating to you because of what you've done, what you've accomplished, and they have a relationship with you, right? You got to have that relationship, and then they see the production and then they start gravitating to you. Or are you that level 4 leader where you are equipping leaders and showing other people how to develop leaders? And personally, I believe that's where I am. I believe I'm at that level. I believe I'm on level 4. The last level is pinnacle, and that's when, you know, you just got, you're that name. You know, you're that Tony Robbins. Uh, you're that Simon Sinek. You're that John C. Maxwell. You're the Malcolm X or Martin Luther King or whatever icon you want to put in there, and that's the pinnacle, right? Um, but I tell you what, I might not ever get to the pinnacle, but I'm loving this level 4. I love to see people move forward and move up and do great things. I love to see their lifestyle changes. I love to get the questions on what do I do at this level. I'm gonna tell you what I did. You know, I don't know if it'll work for you, but this is what I did. You know, I love those kind of conversations instead of all the conversations that are negative. You know, who got shot in Houston or who got ran over or what's happening in our public school system or whatever. I love the conversations about, you know, what can you do now that you're making 30,000 more a year, or what should you do with Johnny over there that's talented that nobody's paying attention to? What's your plan to get your business better? Well, I plan to do this. Well, I don't hear anything about people in there. The business is not going to get any better unless you get your people better. So what's your plan when it comes to building your people? I love those kind of conversations. So today, 7:30, 11:16. By the way, I'll say this, my birthday's Saturday. So I'm very appreciative to be turning 51. I know my parents are coming down to eat with us, but just wanted to share that with y'all since I'm on here every week with you. I feel like it'd be wrong not to tell you my birthday's coming up. But I'll be 51 years young. So you guys have a great one. I appreciate you coming on. It's 7:30. Next week, we'll be doing Influence 101 Part 3. Influence 101 Part 3. You guys have a good one. Thank you, Ann. Thank you.